Hello, and welcome to our segment of on Sunday, our Sunday segment of Divine Femininity United. I am your girl, Dr. Bianca, Miss B. Lee, and we are here for our other chapter reading of this amazing book. My goodness, Power versus Force, the Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior. This book has blown me away. And today we are reading on chapter 6, which is New Horizons in Research. Okay. So the Dr. David R. Hawkins has been breaking it down, laying the foundation of what it is that we're learning, reading through, and things like that. And it's been really mind blowing. It really has. And then to see ourselves in this journey, because he's really showing us what and who we are and how to stand in our power. The whole title, Power versus Force, how to stand in our title and be that, operate in this life as that, versus forcing something that we are not, versus forcing, personas, or even down to ailments and things like that, believing things that we are not, instead of and he's showing us how to align with who it is we are. But we first have to identify that. We got to identify it before we can align with it. You know what I mean? Because right now, the more dominant voice that we've heard or been listening to over the course of our lives is that of our environments, our familials, society, and the constructs that society has, TV, entertainment, in all facets, peers, you know, um, teachers, whatever the case, we've been forced to believe a certain thing about ourselves, forced to believe a certain thing about ourselves, instead of identifying our power and standing in it. So, with that being said, we're going to go into our chapter 6. If you do not have the book, then by the end of the segment, we're going to go over how you can get that book. So make sure you stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. If you're here now, thank you so very much. We are airing live on Clubhouse, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Okay, so let's go into it. This is chapter 6, New Horizons in Research. Our concern thus far has been primarily to clarify the structure of the anatomy of consciousness, with some reference to the mechanisms of force and power. But in no sense is this a purely theoretical subject. The unique nature of the research method described herein allows exploration of hitherto inaccessible areas of potential knowledge. It's as applicable to the most everyday practical questions as to the most advanced theoretical explorations. Let's investigate a few general examples. Social problems. Drug and alcohol addiction is a crucial social concern that feeds the parallel problems of crime, poverty, and welfare. Addiction has proved an obstinate social and clinical problem, thus far not understood beyond the most basic description. By the term addiction, we mean clinical addiction in the classical sense of continued dependence on alcohol or drugs despite serious consequences, a condition exceeding the capacity of the user to discontinue use of the substance unaided because the will itself has been rendered ineffective. But what is the essential nature of addiction? And what is the addict really hooked to? That's a great question, man. The common belief is that it's the substance itself to which the victim has become addicted, due to that substance's power to create a high state of euphoria. But if we re examine the nature of addiction through the methodology outlined herein, a different formulation of the process emerges. I agree. Ooh, this is going to be good. Alcohol or drugs do not have the power to create a high at all. They calibrate at only 100, the level of vegetables. Whoa, really? The so called high that the drug or alcoholic user experiences, however, can calibrate from 350 to 600. The actual effect of drugs is merely to suppress the lower energy fields, thereby allowing the user to exclusively experience the higher ones. Wow. It's as though a filter screened out all the lower tones coming from an orchestra so that all that could be heard were the high notes. Okay. The suppression of the low notes doesn't create the high ones, it merely reveals them. Within the levels of consciousness, the higher frequencies are extremely powerful, and few people routinely experience these as pure states because they're masked by lower energy fields of anxiety, fear, anger, resentment, and so on. Rarely does the average person get to experience, for instance, love without fear or pure joy, much less ecstasy. But these higher states are so powerful that once they have been experienced, they are never forgotten and therefore are sought ever after. That's so true. That's why an addict has to go back for more. It's not the drug that they're addicted to, it's the effects of the drug, the feeling of that, where they go. That's what that is. Because temporarily it mutes all, like he said, it mutes all of the lower feelings of regret, anxiety, worry, stress, frustration, anger, betrayal, shame, guilt. It wow. Wow, that is something so revelatory. Okay. It is to this experience of higher states that people become addicted. A good illustration is presented in the classic movie Lost Horizon. As a concept, Shangri La, the movie's metaphor for unconditional love and beauty, calibrates at 600. Once experienced, it reprograms the experiencer so that he's never content with ordinary consciousness again. Yes, that's it. The hero of the movie discovers this fact when, after returning from Shangri La, he's unable to find happiness in the ordinary world again. He then gives up everything in order to seek out and return to that state of consciousness, spending years in a struggle, which almost cost him his life to find Shangri La again. Wow. This same reprogramming process occurs in people who have reached high states of consciousness by other means, such as near death experiences or experiencing samadhi through intense meditation. Such individuals are frequently observed to have changed behavior. It isn't uncommon for them to leave all that the material world represents and become seekers of truth. Many who had transcendental experiences with LSD in the 1960s did the same thing. Such higher states are also attained through the experiences of love and religion, classical music or art, and through the practice of spiritual disciplines. The high state that people seek, by whatever means, is in fact the experience field of their own consciousness, their higher self. If they're spiritually unsophisticated and lack a context with which to comprehend the experience, they believe it's created from something out there, such as a guru, music, drugs, lovers, and so forth. But all that has actually happened in that, under special circumstances, they have experienced what is in reality in here. Talking about in the inside, in inner selves. The majority of people who are divorced from their own states of pure consciousness, that they don't recognize them when they experience them because they identify with their own lower ego states or their own lowest common denominator. A negative self image blots out the joyous brilliance that is the true essence of their identities, which therefore goes unrecognized. That this joyous, peaceful, fulfilling state is really one's own essence has been a basic tenet of every great spiritual leader. For example, the kingdom of God is within you. A quote unquote high is any state of consciousness above one's customary level of awareness. Therefore, to a person who lives in fear, moving up to anger, for instance, rioters or protesters, is a high. Fear at least feels better than despair, and pride feels better than fear. Acceptance is much more comfortable than courage. Love makes any lower state feel comparatively unattractive. While joy surpasses all lesser human emotions, ecstasy is a rarely felt emotion in a class by itself. The most sublime experience of all is the state of infinite peace, so exquisite that it belies all attempts at description. The higher the attainment of each of these states, the greater its power to reprogram the subject's entire life. Just one instant in a very high state can completely change a person's orientation to life, as well as his goals and values. It can be said that the individual who was is no more, and a new person is born out of the experience. Through hard won progress on a dedicated spiritual path, this is the very mechanism of spiritual evolution. Man, the permanent high state experience that may be legitimately attained only through a lifetime of dedicated inner work can be reached by artificial means or temporarily. But the balance of nature dictates that to artificially acquire that state without having earned it creates a debt. And the negative imbalance results in negative consequences. The cost of such stolen pleasure, wow, stolen pleasure. The cost of such stolen pleasure is the desperation of addiction. And finally, both the addict and society pay the price. It's so true. Ours is a society that idealizes the pleasureless, hard work, stoicism, self sacrifice, restraint, and condemns pleasure in most of its simpler forms, frequently even declaring these illegal. Politicians, whether secular or ecclesiastic, understand this phenomenon well. Part of the standard repertoire of local politicians to gain headlines these days is to publicly announce their intent to prohibit erotic magazine in prisons, for instance, or deny the inmates tobacco or TV. In our society, unfulfilled promises and enticement are legitimized, but satisfaction is denied. Commercialized sexual allure, for instance, is used to sell products endlessly, but the enjoyment of actual commercial sex is forbidden as immoral. That's so true. Wow, that's so true. Historically, all ruling classes have achieved status and wealth by controlling society through some form of puritanical ethic. The harder the underlinings work, and the more meager their pleasures, the richer the ruling system will be. Whether it be a theocracy, aristocracy, okay, aristocracy, oligarchy, I think that's what that is. Oligarchy, okay, oligarchy, or corporate industrial barony. Such power is built upon the forfeited pleasures of workers. Experientially, as we've seen, pleasure is merely high energy. The energies of the masses have been co opted over the centuries to produce for the overclasses the very wealth of pleasures denied the underclasses. Wow. So true. In truth, the pleasures of life energy are mankind's basic capital. Robbing man of this has resulted in the wide division between haves and multitudes of have nots. What working classes envy in the lives of upper classes is, appropriately, their pleasures, from the joys of exercising power in its varied forms to the beautiful trophies of self-indulgence. The realization that the delights one is denied are being enjoyed by others begets the outrage of revolution, or sublimated, the repression of restricted laws against the pleasures of one's peers. The moral code thus functions as a rationalized exploitation of the life energy of the masses through a calculated distortion of values. So true. The illustration, the illusion proffered is that the more hellish one's life is, the more heavenly the reward will be. This distorted coupling of pleasure with suffering has produced a morally perverse social milieu in which pain becomes associated with pleasure. In this atmosphere, the insane alternation of suffering and euphoria that typifies addiction becomes at least provisionally defensible in a deadly antisocial game of winning and losing the forbidden high. From the same life view, society's current method of treating the problem by playing the other half of the game arises, denying the nature of substance abuse. By doing so, we've created a marketplace that is so highly lucrative and easily entered into that an entire criminal industry flourishes as a result, corrupting life on multiple levels. The arrest of a drug kingpin, for instance, has no effect at all on the problem. Before he's even jailed, he will have been replaced by a new top dog. For example, when South American drug lord Pablo Escobar died, he was instantly supplanted by three new kingpins. So the Hydra now had three heads instead of one. Society's drug problem requires a social approach calibrating at 350, and our current anti drug program calibrates at 150. Therefore, it's ineffective, and the money spent on it is wasted. My goodness, that is so true. Wow. So, pretty much, it's presumed that there's a remedy, or the public out speech or outreach rather, it's presumed that, oh, we care about this, we care about that, when in all essence, denying one class one thing puts in position the other classes to have. My goodness. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Next section, industrial and scientific research. The diagnostic method we've described quickly tracks it tracks fruitful areas for research and development in science and industry. Historical examples illustrate how the use of this method could save years of effort and millions of dollars. Materials research. Thomas Edison tested more than 1,600 substances before he arrived at tungsten as the most suitable element to be used for his historic development of the incandescent light bulb. An easier way to detect the best material would be to divide the possible alternatives into two groups and ask, the material is in this group, yes or no. After this determination, the group is again subdivided and so on. By this method, an answer can be derived in a matter of minutes rather than years. See, that's good. Next section, product development. Decades ago, RJR Nabisco Holdings Corporation wasted approximately $350 million to research and produce a smokeless cigarette. To research and produce a smokeless cigarette, okay, on the mistaken assumption that smoking is primarily an oral habit. In fact, it's since been discovered that when people go blind, they tend to quit. Smoking has multiple bases, of which oral gratification is only one. A kinesiological test of the market viability of any potential product can arrive at clear conclusions regarding public acceptance and feasibility of marketing in less than a minute. Product acceptability and profitability can be ascertained very accurately if questions are phrased with precision and all contingencies are investigated, including timing, markets, advertising, and subpopulations to be addressed. Scientific inquiry, next section. Science provides a field of kinesiological explorations that offers a group of inquirers, excitement eclipsing any polar gain. It's also fascinating for a group to compare what they have discovered with the findings of other groups using the same method. In a more general application, avenues for fruitful research can be identified quickly, and it will be discovered that often the most valuable insights to be obtained have to do with the range of dimension of research. Since this method bypasses limitations of context, one of its most valuable uses is as a check on the process itself, okay, whether or not it's the correct direction to take. We may thus confirm that basic premises from which inquiries, yes, originate have validity. For instance, our current research for life elsewhere in the universe takes the form of broadcasting the mathematical symbol pi, okay, into space. Implicit herein is the assumption that no civilization could develop radio reception unless it could understand that mathematical concept. But it's enormously presumptuous to assume that life elsewhere is even three-dimensional or detectable by human senses at all. It's true, let alone composed of distinct life units that solve problems by use of an intellect and employ symbols to communicate across space and time. So true. So true. I think in my study, I think the only form so far, from what I've learned, the only form of communication um, in space or in the cosmos is frequency, by way of hertz and vibrations, for sure. Um, okay, so yeah, so I can understand how symbols and all of those things, mathematical symbols and whatnot, it's very presumptuous for us here, where those things are understood, can be misunderstood, can be presumed that other life forms in other realms understands the same form of communication, or would even be interested in understanding the same form of communication. That's I mean, it's true. Next section, medical science. Kinesiological diagnosis is a science in its own right, governed by the International College of Applied Kinesiology. Each organ of the body has its corresponding detector muscle, whose weakness signals pathology in the corresponding organ. Kinesiology is already widely used to confirm both diagnosis and the efficacy of a probable therapy. The right dose of the right medicine can also be determined by the patient's kinesiologic response. Similarly, allergies can be detected, and the need for nutritional supplements may be determined. Research in theology, epistemology, and philosophy. Although the validity of its application may vary with the observer's capacity for awareness, the technique of using kinesiology to ascertain truth itself calibrates at a level 600. Wow. This means that the method described has a degree of reliability that's beyond duality or the realm of ordinary consciousness as we know it in daily life. The level of truth of this book as a whole is approximately 810. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow, 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 wow. To maintain that level throughout, the truth of every chapter, page, paragraph, and sentence has been examined by use of the method described, and all statements and conclusions have been similarly verified. That is absolutely amazing. And my assumption, just my assumption, that by reading this book, whatever level we are on, okay, especially prior to reading the book, that, oh my goodness, 810, wow. By reading this book and obtaining and adhering to applying the information that is provided, we automatically raise our own levels. Mm. The book is at 810. That is, whoa, okay. Whoa. All right. That is amazing. I love that. The confusion surrounding the nature of truth can be mitigated if we calibrate the level of truth of our questions as well as our answers. Paradoxes and ambiguities arise from confusing levels of consciousness. An answer is truly only at its own level of consciousness. Thus, we may find that an answer is quote unquote correct, but simultaneously quote unquote invalid, like a musical note that's correctly played but at the wrong place in the score. I understand that. All observations are reflections of specific levels of consciousness and are valid only on their own level. That's it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I am getting so much revelation as I'm reading this. My word, man. This right here explains why. I'm going to interject right here, but this right here explains why some of us have requests. We have desires, okay? And they have yet to come into fruition. It's not that it's not yours. It's not that you are not granted it. It's not always that case. but it could be mm, it's a correct request at the wrong level of consciousness. Wow, wow, wow. It's a correct request at the wrong level. So that right there pairs well with the whole manifestation conversation. Yes, we manifest, yes. But it's not that you, and if you haven't seen it, then don't get frustrated, because just because you haven't seen it yet doesn't mean that it's not available for you. It probably means that you need to elevate to a higher level of consciousness where it dwells. Mm, that is amazing. That is amazing. I have to read that again. All observations are reflections of specific levels of consciousness and are valid only on their own level. My goodness. Ooh, I hope y'all are getting that. Ah. Therefore, every means of approaching a subject has its own built in limitations. It does. My goodness. A statement may be true at a high level of understanding, but be incomprehensible at the average mind. That's it. Its value may therefore be corrupted when the statement is distorted by the limitations of the listener. This has been the fate of religions throughout the ages. It has, my God. When pronouncements originating from high levels of awareness were later misinterpreted by followers vested with authority. Such distortion can be seen in the fundamentalist sext of any religion. It's so true. The fundamentalists' interpretation of religion's teaching stresses negativity and is removed from this negativity only by truth. The lowest depictions of deity are of a God who is jealous. Listen, I have to, okay, I want to pause there and I want to read that again because I need the listeners to listen. Not with your ears, not with your analytical self. I need you to hear with your heart. The lowest depictions of deity are of God who is little God now, okay? Because clearly this is the God that man has created. The lowest depictions of deity are of a God who is jealous, vengeful, and angry, a God of death far removed from the big God of mercy and love. The little God of righteousness, a righteous negativity, represents a glorification of the negative and provides for his followers a disavowal of responsibility through justification of human cruelty and mayhem. In general, pain and suffering increase as one nears the bottom levels of consciousness. The truth of each level of consciousness is self, verifying in that each level has its native range of perception, which confirms what's already believed to be true. Thus, everyone feels justified in the viewpoints that underlie his actions and beliefs. That's the inherent danger of all quote unquote righteousness. Anyone can be righteous, from the killer who justifies his rage to ecclesiastic demagogues and political extremists of all persuasions. By distorting context, it's possible to rationalize and justify almost any human behavior. All wars are stated to be quote unquote righteous by their perpetrators. It's true. It's true. Whether we deem it correct or right or not, the person who's doing it, they see it's clear. They're passionate about their stance, which is why they're doing it. They think in their mind, in their logic, that this is the right way to do it. This is correct. This is how it's supposed to be done. This is my reasoning behind doing this is right. But what that does is it reveals that person's level of consciousness, where from where they are sitting. The human dialogue is awesome in its enormity and subtlety, reflecting the kaleidoscopic interactions of the powerful attractor energy fields constituting man's consciousness. The brilliance of the world's great philosophers through 25 centuries has been staggering in its scope and complexity. Yet, overall, there are few areas of agreement with respect to the nature of truth. Without any objective yardstick, every individual who has ever lived has had to sift through the changing reflections of life to discern his own truth. This seems a never ending struggle to which man is condemned by virtue of his own mental design. It's true. This design predicates that any statement will be true only within a given context, despite the fact that the definitions and derivations of that context are invisible and unstated. It's as though every individual is exploring life through a compass that has a unique setting. That any meaningful dialogue at all is possible bespeaks man's enormous compassion for his own condition and attests that giving cohesion to the whole is an all inclusive, overarching attractor field that facilitates the manifestation of the possible into the actual. Concordance emerges from the organizing patterns hidden behind apparent chaos. Thus, the evolution of mankind process progresses despite the apparently aberrant signals of individuals at any given moment. Chaos is only a limited perception. Everything is a part of a larger whole. Everyone is involved in the evolution of the all inclusive attractor field of consciousness itself. It's the evolution innate to the overall field of consciousness, which guarantees the salvation of mankind, and with it, all of life. The nobility of man is in his constant struggle with his own unasked for existence in the world that is a house of mirrors, his sole support, his faith in the process of life itself. My goodness. My goodness. That is good. That's the end of chapter 6. Ooh, I want to move forward. I want to go ahead. I want to move forward so bad. But I won't. This is just my urge, my desire to just want to, take in more. It's so good though. My word is so good. Oh, it's so good. And I'm following along very well. Although, like I said, there's a lot of jargon. There's a whole lot of jargon. I have to admit that. But I'm following along so well, and I'm appreciative of myself in doing so, because I'm seeing exactly what's happening here and the connection of the two worlds: the material world, the psychological world, which is the human 3D self and world, and the energetic world, the conscious level of the conscious world, the world of awareness, and the invisible world, I should say. And I'm seeing the two. He's merging them together as they should be. They've never been separated except by man, but I'm seeing the beautiful interweaving of the two, and how there is no one without the other, never has been. And he's making it so plain. This oh my goodness, my eyes are opening so amazingly, and I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. My goodness, if you all are listening in real time, or if you're listening on the replay, thank you for being here. I thoroughly appreciate you for your energy, for your time, for your, for allowing me a glimpse into your space. We usually don't stay on here long because these chapters are not long at all, but they're so packed with gems. Oh my goodness. So packed with gems, and I love it so very much. To get your book, it's beneficial that you have this book in order to go on this journey with us. Like really go on the journey with us. To go with us, or you can be on your own frequency, your own path, your own speed and all of that. I want to stop, at chapter to chapter, but you don't have to. To receive your ebook of the reading material, inbox me. with your email address, and I'll send it right on over to you. It's only a $5 seed. $5 because it does cost for me to do what I do weekly. But it's just a seed. It doesn't cost $5. It costs way more than $5. But you will be assisting. This is a one-time per, I only charge $5 per book that you're receiving, okay? You can email me at info@biancamissbilly.com. It's on the screen for those who are watching or listening on Clubhouse. Then it's above my head. Just go ahead and click over my head to the website and you can inquire there, okay? For those who are on the viewing on the videos, then you can visit my website too. It's on the screen and it's also in the captions. So feel free to do that. You are more than welcome to do that. I just released a newsletter today for my subscribers. I love that I can communicate by way of my supporters and subscribers and keep you connected, to what I'm doing, to what we are doing, to what I discuss. I often talk about the transits, the cosmic transits and things like that, because the universe is always moving. It's always in motion. It's always evolving. It's always expanding. And, most times we don't realize what that means for us when it definitely means something for us because we're all interconnected, the universe, nature, humans, we're all interconnected. We're all made of the same components. There is nothing, hear me, there is no thing that was created that does not have a purpose attached to it, okay? All things were created for our good, okay? But just because you don't know what the purpose of that is and what that purpose of that thing is, doesn't mean dismiss it. Because to dismiss it, you're dismissing self. Bottom line. Pluto is up there for a reason, for you, actually. Mercury, Uranus, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, is up there for you. Moon, Sun is there for you, okay? Neptune is there for you, all right? Those stars are placed. They're there for you, all right? And now that doesn't mean that you have to go and become a scholar at the transits and the zodiacal stuff and tropical and sidereal and Placidus and all of that. You don't have to know all of that. Those of us who know it can share with you. And that's what we do, okay? That's what we do. If you want to know it, please go for it, and go for it. It's a lot. It is a lot, but go for it. Go for it because there is guidance in all of it. There's guidance. And to keep you from having to do the hard work, I'll do it for you, okay? You can go to my websites and you'll be able to see the transits. You'll be able to see, subscribe to the newsletter and you'll be able to get them. Or you can visit my social medias. I welcome you all to do so. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. It's all Dr. Bianca Miss B. Lee, okay? All Dr. Bianca Miss B. Lee. Go there, even on LinkedIn. Go there and you will be able to follow the transits. They're only about, I think the longest video that I've done explaining a transit was probably like 4 minutes, not long at all. It just tells you what's happening in that time so you can prepare. You can prepare yourself and you can properly utilize and take advantage of and embrace the fullness of what these transits have to offer, okay? All righty. I'd rather be connected to what's happening versus, being thrown in something. No, don't throw me in it. I want to be an active participant, and as you should want to be too. All right. All righty, you all. Listen, that is it for today. Our next chapter, which is going to be read on Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is Chapter 7, Everyday Critical Point Analysis. Everyday Critical Point Analysis, okay? Alrighty, until then, you all have an amazing rest of your Sunday, preparing for work. I'm assuming that's what you're doing, spending time with your family. Hopefully that's what you're doing. All right. But we will see you all back here on Tuesday evening. I love you. I mean it. There's absolutely positively nothing you can do about it. Don't you even try it. We'll see you back here on Tuesday evening. Peace.